Good afternoon, class. My name is Raven, and today I will be talking about nuclear power. So, in our present day and age of innovation and technology, America's demand for power is never-ending, and we need energy to meet our daily needs, such as powering our cell phones, watching our TV, driving our cars, powering our stove. We need it for our daily lives. In 2017, 78% of America's power was generated via fossil fuels such as natural gas, oil, and coal, according to the Department of Energy. Although fossil fuels may be currently the most abundant and cheapest source of fuel, harvesting the energy requires us to burn them, thus releasing greenhouse gases such as carbon dioxide into our atmosphere. The fossil fuels burned in 2017 released 5,142 million metric tons of carbon dioxide into our atmosphere, according to the U.S. Energy Information Administration. The Environmental Protection Agency has stated that, due to these effects of greenhouse emissions, there is a correlation to the rise of average global temperatures, which is a summary of there is a link of global warming to the rise of average global temperatures, greenhouse gases to global warming. And global warming causes natural phenomena such as polar ice caps to melt, which is very harmful for our environment. So, it is crucial that America needs to seek an alternative source of power, because the prolonged use of fossil fuels will lead to the depletion of our natural resources and the continued harming of our environment. It is my claim that America's future source of power will come from nuclear energy. Well, why nuclear? Well, it comes down to three factors. That nuclear has the best efficiency of all renewable energy sources, it has the highest power output ratio, and advancements in technology and safety systems means that there's little risk in their implementation. So first, nuclear energy is the most efficient source because all other renewable energy sources are currently inefficient. For example, other sources such as solar, wind, and hydroelectric generators require massive amounts of land for them to operate. According to the Sun Encyclopedia, the general rule of thumb is that for every 1 kilowatt of power, it requires 100 square feet of solar panels. This, in comparison, a 1 megawatt power plant, which only needs 2.5 acres for a facility, to generate the same amount of power with solar panels will require 4 acres. Another reason why other renewable energy sources are inefficient is due to their lack of availability or impracticality. Solar panels can save space as if you put them on roofs. However, they are only capable of powering one unit at a time and work only in ideal conditions. Wind farms require flat land and large amounts of wind, and water dams requires the development of a dam, which then floods the area, displacing animals and people. Area is a limited resource, and we need to keep that in mind when thinking about which energy source is the most efficient. This is why nuclear is the most efficient. Second, power output ratio. Nuclear power plants have the highest power output ratio, highest power to waste ratio of all sources of power. Since they are powered by uranium fuel cells, which contain 2 to 3 million times more energy than fossil fuels, according to Euronuclear.org, they have the highest energy per unit compared to all other fuel sources. However, they are not completely renewable, and that is because after nuclear fission results in radioactive waste. However, this waste, unlike greenhouse gases, is a solid which can be easily contained and stored, thus not leaking out into the environment and preventing harm. And lastly, there is no risk of a nuclear meltdown, very little. And the main reason why nuclear isn't implemented is due to the irrational fear of people of having a nuclear meltdown near them. People always feared about another Chernobyl or another Fukushima, but Chernobyl was caused due to the careless and ill-experienced Soviet Union back in 1986. And Fukushima was the unfortunate result of a major earthquake back-to-back with a tsunami. Nowadays, nuclear facilities have a multitude of safety systems and experienced workers that will prevent this from happening. They have protocols ranging from volcanoes to terrorist attacks, and they are highly skilled and will prevent these from happening. So in conclusion, nuclear power is the most efficient renewable energy source. They have the highest power to waste ratio, and advance technology and safety systems to prevent a nuclear meltdown from happening. And that is why nuclear energy will be the future of America's source of power.
Raven, it did take you about 1 minute and 40 seconds to get to the proposition after you identified the topic. That takes a little while. Save the topic ID until after your introduction and then save it for the proposition when you get there. I think you'll be fine. The proposition is clearly stated, though, and there is a preview at the beginning of the speech, so that helps quite a bit. When you get to those secondary claims, they're not consistently labeled, though, as declarative sentences, and you want to be more consistent on that. I thought the first point was developed pretty well with some justification for why nuclear is more efficient than the alternatives. You need more source citations on the information concerning the inadequacy of solar panels, wind generators, and water dams. There's kind of generic information that you're presenting on these without any particulars, and there's not really any source cited on most of that, and you want to make sure that you were doing that. You had better data on the fossil fuels in the introduction of the speech than you did on the other ones. You know, it basically comes down to the amount of land required. You kind of mentioned that as a key factor, that land is a resource, and so we have to be careful about that. But I have no sense of what the proportion, I mean, you use some terms, and you talk about how many kilowatts, and I'm going, okay, what does that mean? How many acres are we going to have to devote to all of these other things in order to have enough energy versus nuclear power? You mentioned a power plant requiring maybe 4 acres, a nuke power plant requiring maybe 4 acres. Is that in contrast to 900,000 acres required for wind generating turbines? I don't know. And that's something that I think would make it a little bit easier to make your argument. And it shouldn't be a hard thing for you to do. That just is going to complete that argument at the end, that first point. The second point is mostly just about the efficiency of those power plants and their ability to do these kinds of things. There doesn't seem to be a lot of controversy about that. I think the most controversy about the nuclear power plants is their economic efficiency, so maybe you need to talk about that a little bit more there. The waste issue, I'm not sure has been as easily resolved as you suggest it has, and that's, I think, one of the places where there is controversy on this particular subject. One of the reasons that people aren't heavily investing in nuclear power right now is because the waste issues are a little bit uncertain. You dismiss the 2 examples of nuclear power plant failures with reasons why we shouldn't have to worry about them. But then you suggest, oh, and we've got scenarios that solve all these problems. But I didn't hear any evidence that said that you could prove that. You just said that we're done, we're good. You know, we learned from our lesson and it's all covered. And I don't know why I should believe that. There's not any information that supports that. So the third point, I thought, was the one that was most lacking in evidence. It's nicely presented. Like I said, I think you take a while to get to the point. You may be a little too efficient in summarizing what the ideas are, and you need a little bit more efficiency in citing the evidence. All right, thank you.